All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into the world of David Goggins.
David Goggins, huh?
You know,
Yeah.
guy who basically laughs in the face of impossible.
Yeah.
We've got his book, Can't Hurt Me.
Oh,
We're going to be
nice.
pulling out excerpts and really try to unpack what is this whole calloused mind thing he talks about?
Right.
How did he build his,
Yeah.
and how can we, any of us,
Mm-hmm.
use his tactics to achieve goals that we think are completely out of reach?
Well, and what I think is so fascinating about Goggins is that he's not some superhuman freak of nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
he's really using his mind to accomplish all of these incredible feats.
Okay, so just to give everybody context,
Yeah.
we're talking about the only person to ever complete Navy SEAL training,
Oh, wow.
Army Ranger School,
Yeah.
Air Force Tactical Air Controller training.
How is that even possible?
I don't know.
Like, one of those is enough
I know,
to
right?
break a normal human being.
Right. And on top of that, he's done something like over 60 ultra marathons and triathlons.
Yeah. And he held the Guinness World Record for pull-ups at one point.
Wait, how many pull-ups are we even talking about?
Like over 4,000 in 17 hours or something.
Oh my God, that's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear that this is somebody who thrives on pushing themselves to the absolute limit. But what I think is so fascinating is that this all starts with a childhood that I think a lot of us would consider really traumatic.
You're absolutely right. He had a really rough upbringing in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
A lot of adversity. And his father was actually abusive.
Yeah. And he even describes working at his family's roller rink, like Skateland,
Yeah.
as being like his own little prison,
That's crazy.
you know? And so I think it's almost like that exposure to pain and hardship early on planted the seeds for this later obsession with self-mastery through
Yeah.
suffering.
It's a really interesting observation, I think. It's
Yeah.
almost as if he internalized that early trauma and sought to reclaim it later,
Yeah.
but to use it as a source of strength.
Right. And it wasn't just the difficult childhood. He also talks about struggling in school. And he even resorted to cheating to kind of just get by.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it seemed like at the time, he was really trying to avoid any real accountability.
That's something I think a lot of us can relate to, right?
Mm-hmm.
We shy away from those difficult truths.
Totally.
Take the easy route, avoid confrontation.
Yeah. But eventually, he gets this letter
Oh,
from his high school saying that they're going to withhold his diploma unless his grades like drastically improve.
wow.
Yeah, so this is like a major wake-up call for
Yeah,
him.
had to face the consequences.
He had to
That his actions.
face the music.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how one single event can just be such a turning point for somebody.
Absolutely.
And for Goggins, that turning point leads him to this path of the Air Force Pararescue Unit.
Oh, wow.
And it was all thanks to this chance encounter with a pararescueman named Scott Guerin.
Oh, wow. So he just met this guy.
Yeah, and this guy, Scott Guerin, he had overcome these like incredible odds after having a near-fatal parachuting accident.
Oh, my gosh.
And his story really lit a fire in Goggins
Yeah.
because it showed him that the seemingly impossible was actually possible.
Totally makes you think about those role models in your life.
Absolutely.
Like how impactful they can be.
Yeah. And, you know, seeing somebody embody the qualities that you admire, even if their path is completely different from your own.
Hmm.
So it's really inspiring. But here's the thing. At this point, Goggins was nowhere near pararescue ready.
Oh.
I mean, this is one of the most physically demanding jobs in the military.
I would imagine.
And Goggins was, how do we say it, significantly overweight,
Yeah.
like over 100 pounds overweight.
Oh, my God.
To even qualify, he had to lose over 100 pounds in 3 months
And that's on top of teaching himself how to swim.
and teaching himself how to swim. Can you imagine the discipline?
That's crazy.
Right. But he was determined to make it happen. So he reaches that goal, but then he sets his sights even higher. He wants to be a Navy SEAL. And to become a SEAL, you have to face the dreaded Hell Week, which I've heard described as...
I heard it's really something else.
Yeah.
Hell on earth.
So Hell Week is basically designed to break you down mentally and physically.
Yeah.
So we're talking sleep deprivation, constant physical challenges, and this relentless psychological pressure, all intended to just push you to your absolute breaking point.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard it's pretty medieval.
And Goggins actually compares it to medieval torture in the book.
Yeah.
So what stands out to me is that even in this environment, Goggins was seeking out more suffering.
Really?
He talks about how he was actually jealous of the pain that other trainees were experiencing.
Wow. That's when you can tell his calloused mind is already kind of starting to form.
Yeah, it's like he thrives in those situations.
Yeah.
And almost finds a sense of purpose and strength in pushing beyond his perceived limits.
He reframed suffering, didn't he?
He did.
Like it became a tool for growth.
It's such a radical concept, right?
Totally.
Like instead of avoiding pain, he leans into it.
Yeah, but how does that actually play out during something like Hell Week?
So Goggins, along with every other trainee, experienced the full force of Hell Week.
The freezing cold, sleep deprivation, exhaustion.
All of it.
Yeah.
And it took its toll, but he found strength in two key things.
Okay, I'm curious.
First, and this is absolutely crucial when you're tempted to quit, he had a rock-solid why. Goggins knew exactly why he was there and what he was fighting for. And that purpose acted like an anchor, preventing him from giving in to doubt or despair.
That's really important.
Yeah. And then the second thing that fueled his resilience was this sense of camaraderie with his fellow trainees.
Oh, like they were all in it together.
Yeah, and he talks about this guy named Bill Brown.
Bill Brown.
Nicknamed Freak Brown, who came from a similarly tough background as him.
Didn't he also teach himself how to swim just to qualify?
That's right. And it was that shared experience, that bond forged in the absolute crucible of Hell Week that gave them both this extra layer of resilience.
Wow, so they kind of pushed each other through.
They pushed each other, they supported each other, and ultimately they both made it.
It's incredible.
It really is.
Like how powerful that kind of shared suffering can be.
Yeah, especially when you find somebody who truly understands what you're going through.
Right.
You know, it's like their strength becomes your strength.
And it makes you think about the communities that you're part of and the individuals that you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
Like, are those people sharing those same values and goals as you?
You've got to find your tribe.
You do, because they can give you that support when you really need it.
So they made it through Hell Week, but BUDS training was far from over.
Right.
And Goggins, he actually describes this really intense experience.
What was that?
Where he discovered he had stress fractures in his legs during a 100-mile run.
Wait, stress fractures, and he kept going.
He kept going.
That's nuts.
I know. And in the book, he talks about this inner dialogue he was having with himself.
Oh, really?
To like push himself to ignore the pain. And this is where his cookie jar strategy comes in.
Okay, yeah, I've heard about the cookie jar, but can you remind me what that is and how it helped him?
So imagine a jar, right?
Okay.
And it's filled with all these memories of your past accomplishments.
Okay.
Those times where you overcame adversity and you achieved something that you didn't think was possible.
So kind of like little trophies or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's Goggins' cookie jar.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on the pain or the difficulty of the current challenge, he's drawing strength from his past victories.
He's reminding himself that he's done hard things before.
Exactly. He revisits those cookies in his mind, reminding himself of his resilience and his ability to just push through and achieve his goals. And it's such a powerful way to kind of reframe those past challenges, not as evidence of weakness, but as fuel for present efforts.
That's a brilliant analogy, and I think we all have those moments that we can draw on. Those times we surprised ourselves with our own strength and resilience.
I love that.
It's really beautiful.
So we really need to remember those and celebrate those.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they hold the key to unlocking our potential in the present. So starting to get this idea of the cookie jar, you know, how he uses his past to fuel his present.
Yeah.
So after BUDS, Goggins decides to test his limits even further by doing these ultra-endurance events.
Like the Badwater 135?
Yeah. What can you tell me about that one?
Oh, the Badwater 135, it's infamous.
I've heard of it.
A 135-mile run through Death Valley. In July?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, considered one of the most grueling races in the world.
Okay.
And Goggins, of course, signs himself up for it.
He wouldn't be Goggins if he didn't.
Exactly.
But what I find so fascinating is that Goggins wasn't even a seasoned runner before he attempted this.
Oh, wow.
It's like he purposely chooses these challenges that seem almost impossible for the average person.
Yeah, he's not interested in the easy route, is he?
He wants to push boundaries.
He wants to see what he's really made of.
So how did he do? Did the calloused mind carry him through?
Well, it was brutal.
Yeah.
Intense heat, blisters, exhaustion, dehydration.
All of it. Yeah.
The whole 9 yards. But somehow, he managed to finish the race.
He finished.
He did.
Oh, my God.
And he came in 5th place?
5th place out of everybody.
I know.
That's incredible.
It really is.
Especially considering he wasn't even a seasoned runner.
And his time was impressive.
Wow.
Especially given that he had all these setbacks during the race, like severe GI issues, dehydration. He even had to walk for long stretches because of the pain.
So even Goggins has limits.
He does.
That's kind of reassuring in a way.
It is.
To know that even he has to adjust and adapt.
Right, and I think what's so key here is that he never gave up.
Right.
Even when his body was screaming for him to stop, his mind stayed in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Kept digging into that cookie jar, reminding himself of past victories,
Yeah.
and just kept pushing forward one step at a time.
This Badwater experience really highlights that sometimes mental toughness can outweigh physical preparedness.
Absolutely.
And that's like the ultimate example of refusing to let your mind dictate your actions.
Yeah.
You know, choosing to keep going, even when every fiber of your being is telling you to quit.
So we've seen Goggins' really challenging upbringing, and we've seen how experiences like Hell Week and Badwater 135 have really shaped his calloused mind.
Yeah.
But his story doesn't end there, does it? I mean, he faces setbacks and challenges later on, failures even.
Yeah, what happened next?
You're right. Yeah, his journey takes some interesting turns, and he faces failures. And how he deals with them reveals even more about his approach to life.
Failures? Wait.
Yeah.
You mean like David Goggins, the guy who seems to defy limits, actually fails at stuff?
He does.
Okay, I got to hear about this.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? What kind of failures?
The one that comes to mind is his attempt to break the world record for pull-ups again.
Oh, he already had the record.
He did.
And he wanted to push it even further.
Yeah. And he trained relentlessly, really meticulously scheduled his suffering, but on the day of the attempt, he fell short of his goal.
That's so surprising. I mean, with all this mental fortitude,
Yeah.
you think he would be immune to these kinds of setbacks?
You'd think.
What happened? I mean, does he talk about it in the book?
He does, and with incredible honesty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he really analyzed his failure, admitting that he let distractions creep in, didn't fully respect the magnitude of the record he was trying to break, and ultimately, his lack of focus cost him the win.
That's actually really relatable, you know?
Oh, it is.
Because it shows that even someone like Goggins, with this incredible discipline, can still fall prey to those mental hurdles that we all face.
It's a good reminder that no one is invincible.
Right.
And even the strongest individuals experience those setbacks.
It's not about avoiding failure altogether.
Right.
It's about learning from those experiences.
Yeah.
And using them as fuel for future growth.
Exactly.
This is making me think about Goggins' approach to suffering again. Like, maybe by embracing those failures, those moments of weakness,
Yeah.
he actually strengthens his calloused mind.
It's a powerful insight, and it's not just about those mental setbacks.
Right.
Goggins also faced a major physical hurdle when he was diagnosed with a serious heart condition
Oh, yeah, okay.
called atrial septal defect, or ASD.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
A hole in his heart.
A hole in his heart?
And he was running ultra marathons and going through SEAL training with this.
It's pretty incredible, right?
That is wild.
Yet he didn't even know about this condition until he started having some heart problems in his 30s.
Wow, it's amazing that he didn't have complications sooner.
I know. So he needed surgery, and the recovery was no cakewalk.
Right. Can you imagine somebody like Goggins being forced to slow down,
I know.
accept limitations?
It must have been so frustrating for him.
Especially after building his identity around pushing those limits.
Exactly.
So I'm guessing he wasn't just like sitting around waiting to heal.
Yeah. You're right. He had to adapt, had to find new ways to challenge himself and maintain that calloused mind.
Yeah.
He couldn't rely on those physical challenges anymore.
Okay.
So he really shifted his focus to mental discipline.
So even during recovery, he was still finding ways to schedule suffering.
Exactly. He talks about intentionally incorporating discomfort into his daily routine.
Yeah.
Even if it's just doing something he hates for a set period of time.
Yeah.
The point is to continuously push beyond those mental barriers that we create for ourselves.
It's like turning everyday life into a training ground for the mind.
Exactly.
It's pretty inspiring, actually.
It is.
But I'm curious, we've talked about Goggins' philosophy quite a bit.
Yeah.
But how can, like the average person, how can we apply these seemingly extreme principles in our own lives?
That's a great question. And while Goggins' approach might seem extreme, the core principles can be adapted to fit anyone's circumstance.
I like where this is going. Break it down for us. How can we apply his philosophy without running ultramarathons and going through Hell Week?
Well, one of the most important takeaways is the power of embracing discomfort.
Okay.
You don't have to seek out suffering for its own sake,
Right.
but rather be willing to face those things that make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, the things we typically avoid.
Exactly.
So pushing past your comfort zone, even in small ways, can contribute to building a calloused mind.
Exactly. Start small. Maybe it's taking cold showers, waking up earlier, or tackling that task you've been putting off. The point is to train yourself to lean into that discomfort rather than run from it.
This makes me think about Goggins' emphasis on finding your why.
Yes.
Having a clear purpose, a driving force behind your actions, can make those uncomfortable challenges more bearable.
Absolutely. It's much easier to endure hardship when you have a clear understanding of what you're striving for.
Right.
So ask yourself, what is my why?
Yeah.
What truly motivates me? What am I working towards?
That's such a powerful question to reflect on.
It is.
And when things get tough, when you're tempted to give up, that's when you can tap into your cookie jar.
That's right. Remember those past accomplishments, those moments where you overcame adversity and you achieved something that you thought was impossible?
Right.
Those are your cookies, your reminders that you have the strength and the resilience to push through any challenge.
So even those small victories, those moments where we step outside of our comfort zones, they become valuable cookies.
Exactly. And the more cookies you collect, the more confident you become in your ability to face those future challenges.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Now, one final concept from Goggins that I find particularly relevant for everyone, regardless of their goals,
Okay.
is this idea of starting at zero.
Starting at zero.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
So Goggins believes that no matter what you've accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
you should always approach new challenges with a beginner's mindset.
Okay.
Shedding your ego and preconceived notions.
So it's about cultivating humility
Yes.
and approaching each new experience with a sense of curiosity and openness.
Precisely. And that willingness to start at zero, to embrace the unknown,
Yeah,
can be so liberating.
I can see that.
It really opens up possibilities that you might have otherwise overlooked if
Yeah.
you were clinging to past successes or those limiting beliefs.
Reminds me of that Henry Ford quote.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young.
Goggins really embodies that.
He does. He's always pushing himself beyond his comfort zone.
He's a lifelong learner for sure.
Yeah, and that's something we can all strive for.
Absolutely.
To cultivate that sense of curiosity
Yeah.
and that openness to new experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about everything we've talked about today, embracing discomfort,
Yeah.
finding your why,
Right.
building your cookie jar, starting at zero.
It's all connected.
It all ties together. It's like a cycle of continuous growth,
It is. It really is.
self-improvement.
And Goggins' philosophy, it isn't just about achieving some external goal.
Right.
It's really about the internal transformation that takes place along the way.
It's about building that calloused mind,
Yeah.
that resilient spirit that is capable of overcoming any challenge.
So after this deep dive into Goggins' world, what stands out to you? What are you taking away from his story?
What am I taking away from it?
Hmm.
Well, I think what really sticks with me is that we are all capable of so much more than we think we are.
Yeah.
Goggins isn't a superhuman.
Right.
He's really a testament to the potential that resides in each of us.
Absolutely.
And he shows us what's possible when we tap into our inner strength and just refuse to let our perceived limitations define us.
I love that. So true.
And I'm curious, what's one area in your life where you could start at zero?
Oh, that's a good one.
What's something you've been putting off maybe because of fear or self-doubt?
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to embrace that beginner's mindset and just see where it takes you.
I think that's a great question for all of us listening to ponder.
Yeah.
Because as Goggins shows us, the only true limits are the ones we set for ourselves.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That about wraps up our deep dive into the world of David Goggins and his book, Can't Hurt Me.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Until next time.